Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Summer Craig, and with me today I have a friend of mine. Her name is Summer Brown, and I'm going to introduce you to her. I met her off of Craigslist.
True story.
True story. Last December, I'm like, I need somebody to help me make this jewelry with me working full time and having little kids. It was becoming too stressful for me to manage it all. So I posted on Craigslist. I'm like, what do I have to lose? And sure enough, 5 days or so after the post, I get an email from Summer, and I learn about her background, and she's actually a geologist.
Yeah. And
a geologist instructor at the University of Kentucky, which is just crazy. And she has experience making jewelry. So she's definitely been a godsend. And you've been with me since like January, let's say.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. And so she helps me make all of the jewelry that you see on summercraig.com. And what I thought I'd do is just have her, I'm going to interview her on all of these different gemstones that I make jewelry with, because she is our subject matter expert. I love gemstones. I've been shopping for them since 2005 and designing with them since then, but I hadn't really had the time to really dig in and find out, where do these stones form? Where do they come from? I know some of the stones that I work with in the background, but yeah, I'm just going to let her get started, and we're going to talk first about, this is not really a gemstone, but it's something that I've loved in this last, I found this material back in May of last year, and it's called buffalo horn. It's actually recycled buffalo horn. I have a new piece that I'm wearing here, and I've mixed it with metals. Talk to me about what you've learned about recycled buffalo horn.
So in addition to teaching regular geology classes, I also teach environmental geology.
Okay.
And so that kind of leads me to be really interested in the sustainability of different materials that I'm using or wearing. And so I was really interested when you said you use buffalo horn. Like, what kind of buffaloes are these? I'm thinking like Midwest, ones I see on my way to Yellowstone. what, these poor buffalo, what are they doing to them? And I look it up, and this buffalo horn that Summer uses is actually water buffalo horn, and a lot of it is sourced from India, Indonesia, where they have a lot of water buffalo. Of course, one of the dominant religions over there, they're Hindu, and so cows are sacred, and so they don't use cows as much as they use water buffalo. And so water buffalo they use for tilling fields. They produce really, really nutrient-rich milk, actually better so than dairy cows. And so they have a lot of water buffalo in this area, and so of course, as they die naturally, they want to use all of the material they can, and so that's one of the ways they do it, is by harvesting the horns from these water buffalo that have kind of, had a very long life doing whatever it is they do, whether it's being a milk water buffalo or actually a work buffalo. And so, so this is why it actually is a really sustainable product.
Yes.
And many people are advertising it as kind of this alternative to going after other types of horns, like, rhino horn, or the things that you think of that aren't sustainable. This is a really, really great material for that, if you're interested in having a naturally produced material that is sustainable.
Yeah, that's awesome. The lady that I met, that her parents have a manufacturing plant in Vietnam that she says that they make the recycled buffalo horn. They actually make home interior decor with it, but I just fell in love with it because of its rich colors. It has all the earth tones, and this is just one look, but I have a few different others. This is a yellow tone that I just came out with.
You get a lot of really great shades, from kind of the dark, deep black to grays to white, and then into the yellows.
I mixed it with the metal, the silver. And then the next stone we're going to talk about, or the next material, that's not the stone, but the next material is blue lapis.
Yeah, so now we're actually going to get into my, into the geology itself. Yes. So blue lapis, or you probably heard it referred to as lapis lazuli, this has been used for a really, really long time. As early as maybe even like 7,000 BC, people were using this stuff. And it's because of the color. So blue isn't there's not a lot of naturally occurring blue color if you think about it. Like, most flowers are going to be, reds and pinks and yellows. And so when people start seeing blue stone, they start to say, oh, this is really special. And so they started using it in all sorts of stuff back in the day. So it's actually, if you think about, like if you look up images of King Tut's burial mask, his eyebrows, I think, are actually done in lapis. And later on in the Renaissance, they started grinding it up to make a pigment called ultramarine, which is this bright blue pigment. So if you've ever seen the Renaissance painting, the girl with a pearl earring, that one where she has that really pretty blue scarf on, that's what that is. It's actually ground up pigment made with blue lapis.
Oh my goodness.
So
she is an expert, isn't she?
So this is really,
I love this.
Gorgeous color. And so yeah, a lot of the Renaissance stuff, and usually it was reserved for, I think it was reserved for like royalty or the Virgin Mary, where they were like, okay, really special figures are going to have this beautiful royal blue color. And of course, it also makes a fantastic jewelry color.
Oh my goodness. It's one of my favorites. And for all of our Kentucky fans, it's usually a favorite of theirs too. Okay, so our next piece, this has buffalo horn. It's just a totally different look than what we had before, but it also has jasper. So tell me about jasper and what you know.
So jasper is a form of what, as geologists, we call chalcedony. You might have also heard it pronounced as chalcedony. Both of them are actually correct. And what it is it's just silica. So silica is the same thing that quartz is. And so when we say chalcedony, what that means is instead of getting one big long quartz crystal like you might see on some necklaces, maybe some of the ones we're actually going to talk about today, instead it's microcrystalline. And so you get these really, really fine crystals. So you can think of it as if you have like sugar crystals. So rock candy would be where you get those big, awesome crystals. And this would be more like fudge, where the crystals are really, really small and you'd only be able to see them if you looked at it under a microscope. And so it's really, really fine, and so you're not going to see the actual crystals, but because of that, you can get a lot of different minerals and other elements mixed in, which will give it really cool colors.
Yeah.
And so underneath chalcedony, there's agate, you've probably heard of that, jasper. The difference in those is going to be on how much you can see through them. So whether it's transparent, translucent, or opaque. So transparent is something where you can actually see through it. Like if I set something that was transparent over a newspaper, I'd be able to read that newspaper through it. Whereas translucent is just going to let some light through, and then opaque lets none through. And so we'll kind of refer to that as we go down the line, as we come to some of these other kind of silica or quartz-based minerals that are really similar. But jasper, more often than not, is going to be opaque. That's what sets it apart. So you're not going to be able to see light through it. Oftentimes it's going to be dark colors, so blacks, browns, sometimes reds, oranges. So those are what that's what we typically tend to think of when we hear jasper.
I love jasper. I've used it since I began making jewelry. I love how there's just so many different textures through and different various colors all in one stone. This one is grays and blacks and has a little taupe in it. It's just beautiful. They call it tree jasper.
Yeah, and it looks great paired up with the pearls, the white pearls.
I know.
Right there.
I loved it.
Sets it off.
I know.
So I like how she does this, because you get these kind of mixed material where you get the kind of black jasper and then the white pearl and also the buffalo horn. So it's like the best of both worlds.
We're really a good duo. I love the mixture of materials, and she is my knowledge source. She knows everything. This is exciting. Okay, so this piece here is...
So this is also quartz, and so it's quartz on the bottom, and it's this kind of bronzed quartz at the bottom, and then the black beads.
It sticks. I love the textures and sticks.
So, this is a great mix of textures.
Yes.
Here. And then you get into the black onyx on the sides, and so black onyx is also another form of quartz, and so this is just another opaque form. It's black because I believe it has a lot of, usually it's like iron and magnesium, those heavier elements that give that darker color. And then I think you also have smoky quartz in this one.
Yes, there's smoky quartz.
So another variety of quartz. Once again, as soon as you get those kind of, as geologists, we refer to them as impurities, but it's whenever you have something else that's not that silica. So whenever you have iron, magnesium, aluminum, something like that. Although what's funny is in gemstones, those impurities or defects are what makes a stone special, or what gives it color. And so I like drawing that idea into the rest of life. It's like, it's kind of what makes you unique, or what you might consider a defect is actually what makes you unique. And that a lot of that I'll talk about with the rest of these is it's certain elements that kind of snuck into the quartz or whatever that gives it that special color. And so yeah, so that's I like the lineup there where you get all the different kinds of quartz.
And Summer's design skills really played out well with this piece because she kind of went to town. I said, this is kind of what I'm after. You just kind of mix it up how you think best. And she did a great job with that one.
Mm-hmm.
This is a stone I just came into, gosh, last May, and I love it.
Yes.
It's called chrysoprase.
So chrysoprase.
Am I saying that right?
Yes, you are saying it right. So chrysoprase is also silica based. So we're kind of, like I said, we're going to walk through all these ones that kind of have their roots in silica. However, remember how I said that it's always kind of some sort of element or different mineral that gives it a special color? In this one, it's nickel. Nickel actually gives chrysoprase. It's kind of really cool green color, and it's probably tough to see on here, so you guys will definitely have to peek at it online or maybe swing by a show she's at. But chrysoprase actually has this really cool, almost like marbled texture where you get these kind of light greens to dark greens, and then kind of you get flecks of bronze and gold in there. And so my personal favorite is when it's paired with gold. Any sort of gold findings, I think it's stunning. So that golden green is,
and I have a few styles that I'm going to be featuring on my website with this stone. But this is a great spring and derby piece.
Exactly.
And then...
So next up, all right.
This one's one of my favorites.
Yeah, so what these are geode slices. And so once again, we're still in quartz rounds, still in silica. And so the way this forms is really similar to the way a lot of these form. Is so when you have rock underground, you can end up with water that kind of runs through it. And because, of course, it's a lot hotter underground, you get water that's actually really, really hot enough to dissolve quartz. Quartz has a really low melting point, and so it's one of the first things to dissolve. And so if you have hot water running through underground, it's going to dissolve quartz from the rock. And then that quartz kind of laden water is going to end up in any sort of maybe air pockets that might exist in the rock. And so it's going to sit there, and then as it cools, it's going to crystallize. And so that's how geodes form.
Wow.
And so what this is it's where you just had a geode. So it has kind of this, these kind of quartz crystals along the inside, and they actually slice it up and, drill holes in it and string it up. But that same process, that idea of kind of this hot silica or quartz-rich water running through rock is what forms a lot of these different gemstones. And like I said, it's just whatever else it picks up along the way, which is often what gives it its really cool colors.
And I like all the earthy tones and
it might be a little tough to see, but this one actually has a lot of pink in it also, and then kind of that banding that you tend to get with those quartz-rich rocks.
And you put some crystals in between to kind of give some sparkle. So this is another piece similar to the one I had before with the black onyx.
Yeah, it's a similar design, just kind of different colors. So this one's going to be kind of on the pink rose spectrum. So this is pink opal. Now opal is also silica based, like some of the other ones that we see here.
Don't mind my dog.
She's really amped about pink opal. It's really into it. So this is rough pink opal. So you might tend to think of opal as something that's polished and shiny all the time, but rough opal is used a lot in gemstone jewelry, and it's really, really cool because you really do get to see that kind of banding and coloring. And whereas, fine opal, they might kind of chip off the stuff that doesn't have the colors that they want. But rough opal is really cool because you get to see all that kind of gray and black that's kind of veining through it. Now, opal, what makes it different is that, remember how I said quartz is either a quartz crystal or it could be microcrystalline? With opal, there's actually no crystals, so it's considered something called amorphous, so that just means that there's no structure to it. And that's because it actually has a lot of water dissolved in it.
Okay.
And so this is why, if you've ever heard about taking care of opal, you have to be really careful with fine opal, and that's just because of all that water. It can be really tough. And so I think you're going to do another Facebook video later maybe about how to take care of jewelry. So you guys definitely don't want to miss that one, especially if you have any opal jewelry.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this was a great pink with the grays. I loved that. And the opal. This is the first time I've ever bought the opal stone.
Yeah, once again, awesome for spring. Definitely into summer as well.
Okay, now this is one of my favorites. Okay. With a mix of materials.
Yes,
it has aquamarine, has the agate. This is the brioche agate. And then I put some crystals and then swarthy pearls. with the bronze chain.
So remember how I said the difference between agate and jasper is going to go back with, if you can see through it. And so that's what's really cool about these agate pendants on these is they actually have these kind of translucent parts where if you held it up to the light, you'd be able to see light through it. And that's what differentiates it from jasper when you're talking about the other chalcedony type minerals or, forms of quartz. And then you also have aquamarine. And aquamarine is, it's actually considered beryl, which is another type of mineral. So its cousin would actually be something like emerald. So emerald is also a beryl. And so these are great because they tend to be really, really hard. And so they're going to wear well. So over the years, you don't have to worry about, getting scratched or anything as much. Because it's gonna have a really high hardness, and so that's one of the upsides to using beryl in gemstone jewelry. Is it is pretty tough, and so the blue parts that you can see hanging down from her necklace, the blue sticks, those are the aquamarine, and so obviously it's pretty easy to tell where the name came from. So they do kind of tend to have this blue color, and yeah, so it actually looks really great because you kind of get a little bit of the blue in the agate pendant as well.
When I saw the blue, because when I buy the strands, they come in 16-inch strands, and there was probably like 10 on that strand, and there's probably 4 that had the blue in the
Now this one is also aquamarine, and so it's a similar design as that pink and gray one we just showed. And so this one you get kind of the crystal as well, the Swarovski crystal, and then some white beading. And so this one was specifically, we did it to kind of lighten things up for spring and summer.
Can you tell I really like the sticks?
Yes, exactly.
But I just love the different texture blends, the colors and the textures, and I love it. But the sticks have been my thing this year.
That's all right. I love the rough materials, so I can. I mean, as a geologist, I was psyched to come in and see all this.
Yeah, it's been fun working with you. Okay, so this piece, this is the morganite, right?
Yes, so that is morganite. And so morganite is similar in that it is also a beryl. And so that's why I wanted to follow that up. And so when I say beryl, that's B-E-R-Y-L, not whiskey barrel or anything. So it is a geological term.
We need to clarify that.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's really similar to aquamarine, which is why morganite you tend to think of as kind of a pink color. And if you Google search morganite, you're going to come up with all these really gorgeous light pink kind of cut stones. And so what this is it's more on the rough side, the sides that weren't necessarily, or the stones that weren't necessarily super clear to be cut into a ring or something, but they're still gorgeous, roughly polished, and you really get this kind of color variation. And that's just, once again, due to the different influence of whatever the elements are that kind of end up kind of in the rock before it forms.
This is a perfect spring Easter look, because when I saw this stone with all the different Easter and spring colors, I loved it.
Exactly. Yeah, all right. And then so we've got kyanite as well. So how about you put this one on? I love that one. So kyanite, usually it tends to be a blue color. So kyanite's really special geologically because it only forms under really high pressures. And so as geologists, when we find kyanite in the field, it tells us something really special about what the rock has been through. So it says, okay, well, this rock was subjected to really high pressures, which usually only happen during like burial. So if it gets buried really, really deep. And so when you have kyanite, if you're holding it, you're wearing a necklace, you know that that rock has actually experienced quite the journey to get to where it is around your neck. And so kyanite, like I said, it has a lot of silica in it, and it takes a lot of pressure. Typically it's blue, that's what we usually think of when we think of kyanite. And so this particular one is kind of a royal blue, whereas hers actually has a lot of kind of gold in it, which looks really, really great with the gold chain. But kyanite can also be green as well. I have another example over here. And so these are, as she said, more sticks, so more kyanite blades. And so this is a shorter necklace, but just as cool. And then also kind of a bracelet of, these are more rounded kyanite beads that, once again, you're switching up the textures, but still looks fantastic.
I love this color green.
Me too. It's a light green. Once again, getting into these spring and summer colors. So fun. All right, and then...
Are we learning a lot or what?
Right.
I'm going to have to hit replay and study.
Exactly, and study. Yes. You'll be quizzed on this later. All right, so hypersthene.
Hypersthene.
Mm-hmm.
This is a gorgeous, gorgeous stone.
Yeah, so hypersthene, it is a pyroxene, I believe. So it's just another kind of class of minerals. These tend to form at higher temperatures, so that's what kind of differentiates it. What gives it that kind of dark color is usually they tend to have a lot of iron or magnesium in them. Hypersthene can form in a lot of different places, but what's really cool is sometimes it's found in meteorites. I doubt that's where it gets sourced for the jewelry because that would be really expensive, but you can still kind of think, oh wow, what I'm wearing is also kind of some of the stuff that might be found in some meteorites.
That's cool.
So,
it has a shimmer in it.
It does.
It has a silvery, and if you pair it with purple, I've designed purple with it, and it looks lavender, shimmer lavender through the.
Yeah, it's tough to see on here, and so once again, you might have to go check it out on her website and kind of see what it looks like up close and personal. Yeah, it's almost like a kind of a banding that's in there, like where opal kind of has that kind of shimmery luminescence.
Yeah, that was one of the I love it because black is a great stone to have, but then with the shimmery of the silver, it looks just really great. And then we have rough amazonite there, don't we?
Yes, so you wanted to layer some of these.
Yep.
So that's the great thing about having these rough gemstone necklaces is if you have a bunch of chains, you can kind of layer them.
And I've been designing with amazonite for forever. It's been one of my most popular stones. Or like it's a Tiffany blue color, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It goes with everything.
So amazonite is a feldspar, so another class of minerals. And it's spelled like Amazonite, but it's not actually from the Amazon. And so they think what it was is that either there was another mineral that was a similar color found in the Amazon, they kind of got confused over it, or that some Amazonites have this kind of green color, and so they think maybe they also might have named it because it reminded them of the Amazon, kind of this like bluish green jungle feel. And cool. So yeah, I think it's the color that really kind of sets it apart. That's what most people tend to think of, but you can actually find Amazonite here in the U.S. So one popular place for collecting is actually Pikes Peak in Colorado. So yeah, you can find Amazonite up there, and it actually occurs with smoky quartz, which I haven't actually seen.
Have you found some?
I haven't found some. I found some other types of
going hunting.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. But I think maybe that might be, put that on the to-do list. Is maybe do an Amazonite with smoky quartz, since that's how it occurs in nature.
That would be
pretty cool. But it's the color in this actually comes from kind of like water, like opal has water in it. This also has water in it, and that influences the color. But it's also lead, which I found really interesting. And so it's not enough that it would harm you or anything. Usually it's lead that's just kind of trapped in the crystal lattice and just kind of reflects the right kind of colors, the right kind of lights to lead to certain colors. But like I said, so all these tend to have some sort of weird element that's stuck in there that gives it its interesting colors.
Neat. I love using amazonite in different colors.
Yeah, so there's
with
some
the
others.
gold. This is citrine and amazonite.
And so these are just some slightly different ones. These are cool because they kind of get some rust colors in there as well. So once again, where just some other mineral must have snuck in.
Yeah, I like all the different variations of color with that. And then this stone here is impression jasper, and a lot of people love this stone. What do we know about impression jasper?
So just same thing. It's just another variety of jasper. So once again, you can't necessarily, what makes it jasper is that you can't see through it. It's opaque. Impression jasper, geologists don't really have a scientific name for it per se. It's kind of where you get jasper, and then you kind of get this almost like these really cool looking sand grains mixed in it. So if you look at it, you kind of get that like tan. So once again, making it a great piece for spring, summer, because you get those light colors. It's awesome when you're wearing a lot of neutrals and whites.
I wear that piece that you have on. I wear that
I
year
love this
round.
one.
And that has those.
Yeah, this is also some more. Okay.
What else?
Then,
we have turquoise.
Yeah, now
whole
on to turquoise. So which one do you want? Do you want the horse?
Yeah, I'll put the horse.
So turquoise, kind of like lapis, is really, really cool because it has such a long history. So turquoise has been used for thousands of years.
Let's see this one.
And the reason it's called turquoise is because it was first brought to France from Turkey, from Turkish traders, and it was actually mined in Persia at the time. And so it was this stone that they kind of thought came from Turkey or something. And so they named it turquoise, and that's what they referred to it as. And same thing, it's if you look at King Tut's burial mask, it's in that. A lot of really early civilizations used turquoise. Once again, these kind of bluish colored stones really attract people because blue is naturally a hard color to find. And so in early cultures, of course, they see turquoise and they think, blue is in the sky. And so it has a lot of really symbolic meaning in early cultures. Now with turquoise, you're going to get a variation in colors. So you might, for example, get this particular turquoise, I think it's from Africa, and you get this really cool like bronze color in it, brown throughout it. You can get turquoise that's kind of a lighter blue. This is more close to like a Tiffany blue. Then you also get turquoise that can be a little bit more green, like in this one. And so whether or not it's blue or green turquoise, this is going to be based off of how much iron or copper is in the turquoise. So if it has more copper, then it's going to be on the blue side, and more iron on the green side. Now turquoise is pretty common, but then there's some variations about like how high quality it is, what colors it is. So like I know, for example, in the Southwest United States, where we tend to think of turquoise is coming from. If you've ever traveled there, it's like that's what you see in all the stores.
That's where that came from.
Exactly. So if you go down there, so there's a lot of turquoise, and most of it is found in copper mines.
Okay.
And so what they'll do is, as they're mining the copper, they might pull out turquoise and kind of sell that on the side. And depending on the cost associated with, how much they can get for copper versus the turquoise, that might decide what the mine is used for. So some mines will actually switch back and forth between being a copper mine or turquoise mine, depending on kind of what is making them the most money at that time. But a lot of the turquoise that still comes out in the United States comes from these large-scale copper mines, because it's really copper that is what they're after, because we all know how expensive that is these days. And then they'll be like, oh, wait, there's turquoise here also. We can go ahead and produce that. So, yeah.
That's interesting. You can't, I don't know how you keep it all in your head.
I know. I've been doing
I guess
it
you
long
have been to
enough,
school.
so
How many years
exactly.
did you study this?
A while. So I don't want to, impart too much information about my age or anything.
Oh, whatever. You're young.
But yeah, so, and this is just a start. And so maybe, I know there's a lot of other materials that you use.
Yes.
And so maybe we can even kind of tackle some other ones in the future. And I'm sure if you guys have any questions or requests, she'd be happy to kind of pass those on to me. And I can answer any mineral or rock specific questions.
Yes, she can. She is definitely our SME, our subject matter expert in the way of gemstone jewelry. So thank you so much, Summer.
No problem. It's been fun.
Yeah, I think that we've all learned quite a bit. I've learned a lot more than I have knowledge I've obtained in the last however many years. I've been doing this since 2005. So very cool. Thank you for joining us today. If you would like to know more about the jewelry that I make, you can head out to summercraig.com. And if you want to become a Club Summer member, you can just put your email address down at the bottom, and we'll send you specials as we have them. We don't, maybe once every so often, every other month or so. And then whenever we have new designs, we'll let you know, and then events that I have in the area. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.